So before we start our expressive hire folio, we're going to have to decide what it is we're actually going to create. Is it going to be a portraiture, a still life, a landscape, or perhaps cityscape? Then you have to decide upon a theme. And the purpose of a theme is simply to give you a focus. It can be described as a springboard for your creative process. It's important that it allows you to work for your work to be interesting and suitably challenging. There are many common themes that we see for portraiture, such as emotions, family, music, cold, sadness, disguise, anxiety, bullied, nerd, loved, and happy. Yes, do keep this simple, the theme. For this one, I'm going to do lockdown. Okay, so portraiture with lockdown, and I'm going to start off with this face mask to add some interest to the portraiture. However, it's going to be a pencil drawing, so I'm going to have to look at the face mask for its tonal qualities. So look at it in different lighting conditions, walk around your house and sit it in different surfaces to see how to get a reasonable tonal contrast on your picture. So for this, I'm going to do something similar to this here as a pencil drawing. Okay, so when we start any drawing, there are multiple ways to start a drawing. There is no right or wrong way to start it. We're going to take an approach where we're starting with one point and kind of working our way outwards using the kind of dot philosophy, if you like. There's another video on that particular technique. I'll put a link underneath this one. It's just called the dot exercise. So what we do is, first of all, you obviously have to think about the size of your paper, how it's going to fit on for where you start. Now, I'm just going to start, rather than sketching out the whole thing kind of holistically, I am just going to start with one point, which is this wee bit, well, you maybe can't see, so this is just the wee strap part. And from there, it is just a case of always drawing the thing that is immediately beside it. I'm going to kind of keep an awareness of tone as I go as well. So as the dot exercise tells us, we stick to the information that is always closest to the information that we have. Almost going in a kind of circular motion, constantly going around the object, looking to add a little bit more information in each time. And we may do some fast forwarding here as you watch. Okay, as a general rule, what we want to do is, well, the things that are closest to us have stronger contrast in tones. So regardless of the colours of them, so for instance, like from the way I'm sitting, there's a very strong darkness in the back of this little table, and behind it is very strong light, so there is a high contrast. But in a drawing, in order, the eyes, it's a bit like, I suppose, if you look at a mountain in the distance, the mountain in the distance, or anything in the distance of the window, doesn't have a great amount of contrast with the sky behind it. It tends to be things that are closer to us, like our hand, from the shadows in our hand, has a much higher contrast between, two things than a mountain against the sky in the background. So what that means is that if we kind of calm down the contrast that is at the back, and we pick out the contrasts with the things that are closest to us, then that helps to create a more believable illusion of form and depth in our drawing. So we just start to slightly even softening some of these back edges of the mask. It certainly calm down that contrast, so we'll kind of take that down, and that will help to push parts of the mask back and pull these parts nearer the front. We'll just get a wee bit of heavier contrast down here, pulling that slightly towards us. Part of that heavy contrast can be using your rubber. Now, with a rubber is used as a drawing tool in a tonal drawing. It's not generally used to rub out mistakes. It's generally used to introduce light into some areas. So if we can kind of think of the rubber as having that function also. If for some reason during lockdown you don't have a rubber, one thing that can substitute relatively well is white bread. You take a little bit of white bread and squeeze it until it kind of squash it until it becomes almost doughy. You can then use it almost like a putty rubber. It's not quite as effective, but it's certainly better than nothing. Okay, we'll call this done. I think it's very hard to decide when something's done, but I suppose we have to eventually. It is just a study for page 1. So let us move on, he says, whilst he continues slightly. Push that back a wee bit, push that back, yeah. Hopefully this area at the front pops a little. Okay, we'll call it done. Again, before you start any drawing, painting, or take a photograph, experiment with lighting. Move around holding a small mirror to see the different effects light has on your face. Strong tone can help to create drama in a painting. Obviously, these are different images that I looked at before I decided what I would start to draw. So, we're going to try a little experiment here. This is for our second study. For our second study, we're going to do a section of the eye. Like the dot exercise, I try also to draw the eye in the same manner, just kind of looking at the information that is closest to one another. So rather than just drawing the shape of the eye initially, I'm straight in there with all the kind of detail, or at least a suggestion of where the detail is. Now, the difference with this drawing is we're going true lockdown style. We are going to use some items that we can find in our kitchen to see if we can maybe just experiment a little bit with kind of colouring technique. At this point, I've kind of sketched enough information. I'm going to start off with this first one here. Now, I haven't actually done this before, so this may not work particularly well. We're just, again, experimenting. I thought it would be nice if you could see me experiment as well. So, this here, which is the least likely to work, which is why I'm starting with it, it's cranberry juice. Now, what I've got here is some soy sauce. Mostly. This is should be a little less about line and an awful lot more just about recognising where the general tones are. We will be able to build darker sections in once this dries a little. So what we'll maybe do is just allow this to dry for a while. Yeah, I think we'll let this dry for a while as is. Okay, so we've given the paper a wee bit of time to dry. I have also tried to reduce some balsamic vinegar. See, it's just kind of turned into a gloopy paste. Ooh, it's quite horrible and sticky, but we'll give it a go, why not? Oh, it's quite nice, it's kind of got a wee bit of texture. Try some other colour tints in some way. I don't know whether we can maybe use paprika or something. We are just toying with ideas here. I have not done this type of exercise before, but I do think that I've heard a few excuses from people who say they don't have one material or another, and I'm thinking let's really just try and demonstrate that perhaps not all materials need to be the traditional materials that you might expect to use. I wouldn't say we can get too detailed or accurate this because it is quite sticky, but what we're losing out on in the fact that it can't be accurate, we're kind of gaining in the fact that it does give a little bit of texture to some of the drawing. I think we might switch back to the soy sauce, which is this is not reduced. This is just soy sauce straight out of the bottle. Okay, so what I've tried here is just a wee bit of paprika, the spice cupboard, a wee bit of turmeric in it as well, just to make it a wee bit more yellowy orange. I would say that it is quite grainy. It's perhaps not the best. There is a reason why artists would have ground up their pigments in a mortar and pestle, because otherwise you end up with these kind of grainy dots. But I mean, it doesn't really matter so much. I think it's going to allow us to get some slightly more subtle shades and tones. This is the point at which, you know, we have to say in any kind of tonal drawing that your most powerful colour is the whites that you leave. So the more we take away, the more impact the ones that we leave have. Yeah, I'll maybe just see if I can find something that's a bit blue for this, and other than that we'll just call it a day. Right, I'll be back in a second once I've figured out what to use. Okay, I have failed to find any other ingredients of any other interesting colours, so I'm just going to call it a day at that. Like I say, this is your second study for page one. A close-up now. It could just be an eye, it could be just a part of the nose, but I wanted to include the face mask just because I had made a decision about my theme quite early on. So for our next one, we're going to use some colour. Now, fortunately, I'm just going to use some watercolours because that's what I have lying around. We'll move on to that shortly. Okay, so we are going to do a crosshatch drawing of, this is for our third piece in page 1, the individual studies. So for those people doing portraiture, this is going to be a crosshatch study of, I'm just going to do my eye. Okay, now the thing about using a biro pen, obviously I'm setting this up on an easel so it's easier for me to film, but using a biro pen, obviously sometimes if you go upside down with it, it starts to run out of ink, so it's not really ideal. But we're going to start off, so again, this is just a fairly loose study. Okay, so possibly for this stage we'll stop there. What we're then going to do is we are going to put, we'll introduce some colour using just the little watercolour palettes. Okay. Okay, so we're going to use these watercolours. Now remembering the important thing about this is when you take off the lid, this is where we mix our colours. We're going to use the lid, so don't discard it, and if it's dirty, give it a clean before you start. For this you'll just need a couple of brushes, a paper towel or a piece of kitchen roll will be quite useful as well. So what I'm going to do is we're going to mix up a kind of watery, well, we'll have a look here so you can see what we're doing right. So I'm just putting a little bit of, these are kind of burnt orange colour, kind of burnt sienna. We're then going to put, I'm going to put a little bit of green into this. Okay, so I'm going to, that's my starting point. Okay, I'm going to go with a colour, some of this, and I'm just going to, or maybe if I, well, we'll see. So I'm just going to put it in kind of where I see some slight shadows. Keep it, I mean, you've already clearly started to put the shadows in, okay, and that's been done with your cross hatching. Now this is just to get us a little clearer on our tones. Now I am finding that the more I look, the more I'm seeing that some of the shadows are slightly different colours. So I have some slightly pinker reddish shadows, so I'm going to add a wee bit of pink into this. So I'll maybe start off on the second bit here, just with a wee bit of pink. In fact, now that seeing as I have that, I might just start to put in, there's a few wee areas here that are quite saturated in colour, so I'm going to, in fact I might even go for the thinner brush here and use some very rich colours almost without diluting them at all. And it's kind of to create these very strong but red based shadows that I see around the eye here. also going to, I would say that when you start off a study, I suppose this is a study, we're kind of looking at our eye here, because we will end up doing paintings that has a full face. We want to become quite familiar with how to paint an eye, the colours that they see in it. So in many ways I think when we're doing a study like this, it's quite good just to exaggerate things to help you see colours. So what I'm seeing is, I don't know whether you can see in here, but there's some kind of bluey green colours, and it's just because the skin is quite translucent there. So I am going to create a kind of watery, greeny blue mix, and I'm going to put it in. That's not. I'm going to be even slightly more richer colours in there. There's little hints of it down here as well. Just anywhere I can see. I mean, once you start to put the colour on, you will see it in different areas. But at the same time, I think I'm going to have to also be aware of the actual whites of the eyes not being certainly anywhere near as white as they look in this, because if we think about it, the light's at this side, so that is in shadow. Now I might know that the whites of my eyes are, well, close to being white, but certainly the reality is that the shadows make them appear considerably darker. The watercolours can be used quite similar to the disc paint, so that you don't have to always water them down. I'm wanting to lighten that, so I'm actually just almost using it like a disc paint, which you'll all be familiar with obviously from lower school. I want to get some kind of, there's a feeling of kind of pinky light sitting on this area, the inside part of the eye lid there, so we want to get that on just to pick out the light there. This here feels too light. Just forgive me, there seems to be a tugboat going past the window. I'm switching between two brushes. I've got a kind of flat brush here, it's, as you can see, you can get quite a fine line if you turn it, but it's quite a flat square brush. And the other one is much more similar to the ones that you'll be used to using in school. This little one here gives you much more control for just some of the kind of more linear pieces, parts of the drawing. Anyway, I think for a study, that'll probably do. What it is it's identifying colours, exaggerated colours albeit, but without blending them. It kind of means that we can revisit this drawing and say, well, when I drew myself, what colours did I find in my face? This makes it much clearer, the colours that we're using, because we are leaving them fairly unblended. So yeah, that's your next task.